to council on the impacts of the noise. See it, be able to readily find it, not have to scam into a little end of a document somewhere. Put it in bold writing, because noise is a big concern for a lot of people. What studies are being done on the increased emissions? We've touched on that as well. That should be out there, bold, for everyone to see. And one final question. When you say that the proposal for the city will be that those that do not see the low road right now will not see it in the future, what will they see? Will they see a barrier? That's my question. To those ones on Elder, like, what are they going to see? I think that needs to be answered as well. Not, if you don't see the road now, you won't see it in the future. Will you see lights? Will you see glares? What will you see? That needs to be addressed as well. And that's not my neighbourhood. I'm just saying that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you were the one that said about, or Ken, between the two of you, said about the motion about not seeing the road, which I think you said included traffic.
All I'm going to say is, really frankly, Kate, you're getting right to the crux of the matter, right? Those are exactly the same questions that we've got. And we're working with the port, and I'm telling you, I've been told their budget to get those answers to that level of detail is going to cost $5 million. And they're not willing to spend the $5 million until they have reasonable assurance that if they can achieve those things that we're going to ask for.
We're going to let Steve finish, and then we're going to go to the other microphone. Thank you.
You know what? There's a whole bunch of other things, and that's where I say I find this project really, really challenging to balance between those immediate local impacts and those other really big boogeymen that I have to consider as a city engineer, and one of them is that potential long-term liability of that slope. And so in order to get there and explore this thing further, I really don't think this opportunity is going to come around readily again. And we don't have it in our coffers to be able to deal with that stuff on our own. And somehow or other, through the course of 2007, 2008, 2009, I was at that table, the port, Transport Canada choreographed arm twist. I don't know how the hell they managed it, but somehow or other they managed to get a bunch of different disparate companies that were standing around playing Mexican standoff with each other to sign on the dotted line and say, okay, we're willing to give it a gamble and sign on the dotted line for X many $1 million each. X many $1 million that the city doesn't have. I think somebody else pointed out that they actually acknowledge that the city is a small player as far as the finances in this. We have $800,000 on the table. 800 out of
So, Steve, I think that
million. And that's where we're at.
Steve, I think you've gone around that one a couple of times. Let's go
Gil
over here.
McFarland, 145 St. George's. The lady before me was the first one to mention train whistles tonight, and that was my main concern. Since 1958, West Vancouver has prohibited train engine whistle signals. They passed a bylaw. 1973, the City of North Vancouver passed a bylaw prohibiting use of train whistle signals at Chesterfield. 1987, the City of North Vancouver enacted a noise bylaw. Then we had the Waterfront Industry Noise Control Committee. The City of North Vancouver in 2005 announced waterfront project. The East Waterfront will have a quieter park-like character. 2008, I wrote a letter to the city regarding train whistles. I received a reply back from the Coastal Health, who stated that they were monitoring work for Waterfront Noise Control Committee and enforced noise control bylaw for the city. 2009, there was a petition passed around Lower Lonsdale regarding train whistle noise. Now, I watched from my balcony or from my apartment the building of the extension of St. George's, and I was watching with bated breath because I thought as soon as that crossing overpass over the tunnel was in, they'd eliminate two crossings, one at St. Andrews and one at St. Patrick's. And what happened? They gated it off so it couldn't be used, and I don't know when it was opened up, but now you can drive right down full length of the road right to the elevator, and those two crossings aren't needed at all. Tonight we have the port here, the city, the Department of Transport Canada, and whoever else is needed, the CNR, Why don't they get together, tear those crossings out? That would eliminate the whistling all down Lower Lonsdale here. We'd have no more problems. That whistle in the middle of the night lifts you right out of bed. As the woman said, it's terror. And I've been putting up with it for 35 years. There's no problem with getting those
Sir,
people together.
Could you wrap it up, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now you came on that line after I asked people not to.
No,
but if you've got
I took the place of Joanne. She was one of our neighbors who lives down on Alder, and she offered her spot for me.
She's
Thank
saying
you,
she
sir.
gave you your permission.
Thank you very much, sir.
So could you be brief, though, please?
Yeah, this is a town hall meeting, and I'm thinking once the town hall meeting is finished, then we can continue. I would like to know from the Neptune Terminal executive that are here tonight, Tony and Jim, if Neptune has put this to their board of directors about covering the coal. Tony?
What is it that you're showing people?
It's actually the top of the dome for the no snow load on the coal, and it's actually pivotal. It's actually what they do when they put together this site-specific. And by the way, Stanco is a local company. They're not on the North Shore, but they are in Richmond. So has Tony or have they presented to council?
Could you go to the
Rob?
Could you go to the microphone, please?
To your board of directors?
Carol and I've met on this issue a couple months back.
To the microphone.
Sorry. I don't like mics very much. Carol and I met a few months ago, and Carol presented this idea. We've talked to Stanco. Stanco's referred us to the parent company in the U.S. that manufactures the dome. They're an installer locally that works locally and would manufacture some components. We continue to explore the opportunity that it is, but it's not simple, direct. The scale they typically work in is much smaller than Neptune, Carol. It's not dead by any means, but it's not at a level of presentation to a board yet. So we're clearly looking.
Okay. As a tech resource shareholder and also a CNN shareholder, I think that after realizing, wait a minute, Campotex, that's another one, that is giving towards the potash $250 million for the North Vancouver terminal to do the potash shed, and another $250 million, which actually is in print. It's in the Vancouver Sun, so maybe the Sun is wrong. So, and it's the other $250 million is being committed to the port of Prince Rupert. So this is why I'm wondering about the potash shed and the cover of the dome. But that's something I will bring.
Carol, maybe we can take this offside because potash and coal are not the same products.
No, I know.
And
I know. I'm
totally
just looking at the.
So is this a conversation that you could have?
No. I have one more thing to say, sir.
Okay.
I will get back to them about that. I'm wondering who at the city could answer me about the taxes that the port and the agreement in principle or partners in principle are paying annually, and what kind of tax increase we're going to get for the city of North Vancouver.
Thank you very much. So, Steve?
I still have another question after that, sir. My 3 minutes isn't up.
Okay, so
It is in 30 seconds.
If we stop it when other people are talking, that's a stop-start, is it not, sir?
Steve,
Carol,
can you
I'm
be
gonna
brief?
try and, I don't have there's no direct correlation in tax lift because, as you know, there's the port, Federal Lands pays payment in lieu of taxes to the city for their properties. It's not like us in property taxes for private holdings in the city itself. It's outside of our jurisdiction. So we're dependent on senior government legislation as far as how the city gets paid.
Okay. Actually, I have a report here that says that there is just a sec, let me go to the page, a property tax rate cap on designated port facilities, and that the subsection applies from 2004 to 2018, which means that the taxes for the port and all the terminals will not be increased for 14 years, and that the federal government is expected to roll it over for another 14 years, while we, as residents and the community of the North Shore, and this is including the North Van District and the city, have increases from 2 to 3% per year, and also that as in partners in principle, as partners in principle, sir.
I'm going to ask you to finish off,
I am
please.
finishing off. I am finishing off.
Please.
As partners in principle, we are 55% of the shareholders in this project as the federal, provincial, and municipal taxpayers. Thank you.
Could you please be brief?
I'm going to respond to that as a resident of the North Shore, North Van District, North Van City. The communities on the port, the industry on the port, was paying a disproportionate amount of the taxes into the local coffers. We, the residents, were benefiting from that. The provincial government recognized that that was not sustainable if we wanted to see our economy grow in the Lower Mainland, so they put a cap on it. We, the residents, have been doing very well out of this for many, many years. I've lived on the North Shore for over 20 years. And to tell you what, I saw my tax coming through the other day, and I was horrified to see how much was increased. So there's a whole issue around taxation. But don't blame the industry. They are paying their portion of the tax.
Ken, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to point out something, because it looks like the port and the businesses down there are not going to pay extra in money. What Carol is mentioning is the rate itself. That is a fixed rate. But the assessment, the values go up. So if the values of the land and the buildings go up, taxes go up also. So the rate is limited. But you have to remember the rate is about 20 times the rate that a single-family homeowner is paying. So the taxes that they're paying now is a huge amount. But every year, the rates for everything are actually going up. Not that the rate of the tax rate, but the assessments, etc. So the amount of money that the port and the businesses is raising yearly.
Thank you, sir. You've been very patient. Please.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Mario Parent. I live on 7th St. David. I'd just like to say that I'm very proud to be here tonight, this evening, as a young man, and I'm so proud to see everyone here that has brought forth and articulated very clearly and concisely their ideas about this. Now, if you look around, I may be the only person under 25 here. Sorry, it's not offense. Yeah. Now, as many of my friends as local youth are not able to make it here this evening, I've heard enough here, given both parties, that I would love to spread everything I can and articulate what I've heard. And I just feel so proud to be here tonight to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You snuck up, but you're going to get the pole position here.
Thank you. My name is Don Worthington, and I reside at 435 East First. I have a question that I haven't seen come up anywhere, and it's one of the things that repeats over and over is the safety of the staff that work on the waterfront. And the work at the terminals and have to get across or transport back and forth from the ships because they have to cross over the railway tracks. Has anybody ever addressed a tunnel concept? You are talking about overpasses. I have not seen any nor heard anyone mention tunnels. That's my question.
Well, you're going to hear about it now.
Uh-oh.
Hi, my name is Richard Lyle. I'm the design consultant on the project. What I can say is back in 2007, 2008, there was a preliminary study done. And in that study, many different options were considered, not just overpasses, tunnels, underpasses, even roundabouts were considered for the intersections. And the study that was done at that time narrowed those options down for taking forward before we got involved. So in Crooks, they were considered and they were discounted. And we've revisited those and looking at the changing constraints and conditions that were applied to the project, they just weren't feasible, unfortunately. I could go into the technical details and we can discuss that afterwards, but with tunnels you have groundwater problems, you have pumping that you've got to consider. There's a different size of footprint as well that's required, so you end up with a greater land take than is available. So we're struggling in terms of land available, and that's one of the reasons why it was rejected. But if there's any other concerns, I can answer them later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to come up to the microphone?
Have you ever considered the cost of, and I don't know why it wasn't even discussed at the beginning, bridging that entire road, put the road right over top of the train tracks, because that might get the noise right off the bat, because the road would be over top of the noise, and then just go straight into the bank. Then you don't have to give up the land. You're not going to take away the park. You don't have to do anything. Just run it right over top of the rail tracks.
Yes, that was considered. Again, I can go through the technical issues, but the challenge with that is that we have to provide clearance between the tracks and the structure, and to do that, the footprint of the actual project increases, and it's actually greater, or it extends into the bank. So we have the cost of the actual structure over the rail, but then we also have we've still got to stabilize the slope, so you end up with double costs. The two things become sort of two separate issues, and the costs increase because of that. And unfortunately, because we're limited to budget, it's one of the issues that was rejected. There's other issues as well, like building over the tracks is a challenging condition, and those tracks need to be maintained. They need to keep a through route through. It goes through the tunnel and serves port facilities. So it wasn't just a cost issue, it was an operational issue, and it was a construction duration issue. The construction would take a lot longer, and it just wouldn't fit in with the time frame, unfortunately. Thank you, Richard.
I would like to say thank you very much for your decorum, for listening to each other, for this group, listening to you. I realize that there are a lot of people that didn't finish with some of their thoughts. As I said, please let the city know, let the port know what your thoughts are. And if you have questions, I know that the people will stick around and answer as best as they can in the time that's available. But you've been very, very patient, and thank you very much.